So, hallo, herzlich willkommen zu einer weiteren Let's Play Zero Escape, 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors. Was soll ich sagen? Wir sind hier gerade, ja, wie soll man sagen, die Türen sind jetzt wieder auf oder nicht auf, die Türen im Hospital, im Krankenhaus, oder wie auch immer Krankenzimmer, Krankensaal, das wär's. Im Krankensaal sind jetzt die Türen quasi zumindest wieder aktiv. Man kann sie öffnen mit den richtigen Leuten. Aber Snake fehlt. Und die Frage ist jetzt erstmal, hat Snake die Türen wieder aktiviert oder was ist sonst? Die waren ja vorher inaktiv. Und jetzt sind sie alle auf der Suche nach Snake. Und jetzt geht's erstmal weiter.
Alright, we should go too.
Yes, let's go! But where should we start?
Let's see.
So, jetzt haben wir 4 Möglichkeiten, wo wir suchen können. Da ist mein 12-seitiger Würfel mal wieder ideal. Hier spielt es nämlich ehrlich gesagt keine Rolle. Also zumindest für die Story. Es ist eine 3. Das heißt, wir beginnen beim Casino.
How about the casino on B deck?
Okay, let's go, Jumpy.
They took off up the stairs at a run. Before they knew it, they were there. So was Lotus. She was leaning against the wall, examining her nails.
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
She glanced up at him, unimpressed.
Isn't it obvious? I'm looking for Snake.
I'm just not seeing it.
Really? Maybe you need to look harder.
I don't think that's the problem.
Oh, by the way, I've got a proposal for you two. Care to hear it?
Ja, komm, hören wir zu.
What is it?
Well, I don't like to beat around the bush, so I'll get right to it. Why don't we team up?
Team up?
Yeah. What? You need me to explain it to you? I'm saying, why don't we go through a numbered door?
Even if we wanted to, that's impossible.
Why?
Jumpy's bracelet number is 5, mine is 6, and yours is 8. Our digital root would be 1.
5 plus 6 plus 8 is 19. 1 plus 9 is 10. 1 plus 0 is 1.
But there's no number 1 door in the large hospital room. The only doors there are 3, 7, and 8.
Then we add another person.
Huh?
Who?
What? Isn't that easy? 7.
Oh, if we add 7, 5 plus 6 plus 8 plus 7 equals 26. The digital root of 26, 2 plus 6 equals 8.
Then the 4 of them could go through the number 8 door. But...
Wait a minute. What about the other 4? Ace, Snake, Santa, and Clover.
Well, why don't you add them up?
that was simple enough.
1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10. And 1 plus 0 equals 1. The digital root for those 4 would be 1.
That's right.
And you know the number 1 door isn't in the big hospital room, right?
Of course I know that.
No! Are you saying you'd leave them behind?
Of course not. What kind of woman do you think I am? Once we get off the ship, we could come back and rescue them, couldn't we? Then we wouldn't really be leaving them behind.
Don't try to lie to us. I don't think you'd do anything of the sort.
Really? Why do you think that?
You remember, don't you? We have less than 5 hours left. Even if we manage to escape, there's no way we could come back to rescue them in less than 5 hours.
Well, you never know until you try.
No, you're not thinking this through. Even if we brought 7 with us, we wouldn't be able to get off the ship. The 4 of us couldn't open door 9. It is hidden, but an exit can be found. Seek a way out. Seek a door that carries a 9.
Yeah, that's right. The digital root for the 4 of us would be 8, so we'd have to add Ace to make 9.
That's right. Unless we bring Ace too, we'll be stuck.
Lotus scratched the back of her ear.
Oh. Well, that's unfortunate.
Unfortunate. That's all you have to say?
She didn't sound particularly bothered by what Junpei said. Nor did she seem particularly surprised.
Well, let's try and find another way, okay? A way to get out of here with all 8 of us.
That's impossible. Are you being serious? And you do know that only 5 people, at most, can go through one of the numbered doors, right? The number 9 isn't going to be an exception to that rule. Regardless, at least 3 people will get left behind.
Huh?
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
The moment he said it, Junpei felt a chill run down his spine.
No. Wait just a second. You're skipping over a really big detail.
Yes, what she said was true, but how Lotus could remain cavalier about so terrifying a prospect was beyond him. Ein bescheuerter, also nicht bescheuert, aber seltsamer Satz gerade.
Is that really okay? That means 3 people will die in the end. Are you okay with that? That's just...
Lotus's forehead furrowed.
Do you think I could have a moment alone? There are some things I need to think about.
Junpei and June turned and began walking away from Lotus.
That didn't turn out to be a very pleasant conversation.
Yeah.
Junpei's heart felt heavy and his steps sluggish. But he told himself pessimism would get them nowhere.
Well, regardless,
So he forced himself to smile and turned to June.
let's just focus on finding Snake for now, okay?
Yes, you're right. We can think about those other things later.
Yeah.
Junpei nodded.
Alright, where should we go next?
Jetzt haben wir 3 Möglichkeiten, da ist der 12-seitige auch wieder perfekt für. Aber man sieht erstmal, wenn das mit der Nummer 9, also mit der Tür Nummer 9, so funktioniert, wie die anderen Türen, können nicht alle entkommen. Konnten von Anfang an nicht alle entkommen. Das ist eine sehr unschöne Vorstellung. Kann man nur hoffen, dass es irgendwie anders abläuft. Aber es gibt ja auch mehrere Enden in dem Spiel. Wir werden alles mal sehen, ne? Schauen wir, wo wir hingehen. Der Würfel sagt 11, also back to the large hospital room.
Hey, why don't we go back to the big hospital room?
Sure, let's go.
Together they ran down the stairs. Ab in den Krankensaal.
Hey, wait, that's...
On their way to the large hospital room, Junpei and June noticed Santa standing next to the number 3 door.
Santa?
Junpei paused. What should Junpei do? Ja, komm, reden wir mit ihm. Junpei and June walked up to Santa.
What are you doing?
What? You can't tell? I'm checking out the red.
Why? Is there something bothering you?
What? It's not bothering you?
Huh?
The guts of this red. Why wouldn't you wonder who the hell put it back in here?
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm curious too, but...
Who do you think did it?
Santa's eyes narrowed as he looked at June. She shook her head.
I don't know.
Well, what about you, Junpei? Who do you think fixed this thing for us?
Okay. Snake, Lotus, Zero, jemand anders als die 8. Also, komm, 4 Antwortmöglichkeiten. Ich habe keine Ahnung. Obwohl, ich sag mal, ich als jemand, der es durchgespielt hat, weiß es natürlich. Mal schauen. 5. Also sagen wir Lotus. Warum auch immer.
You think maybe it was Lotus? They say the first person at the scene is the most suspicious.
Yeah, that's possible.
Okay, das ergibt sogar irgendwie Sinn.
You don't have anything else to suggest she did it, though. You might as well just suspect everybody.
Junpei furrowed his brow.
So, in other words, one of us is the person who fixed the red.
Santa grinned.
Bingo! We have a winner.
But if that's true, then the person who did it doesn't want the rest of us to know that they fixed it.
Yeah,
But why?
no idea. Maybe if they come clean on that, it means we'd find out something else. Something bad.
Something bad?
Dunno. But whatever it is, it's gotta be worth hiding. Of course, it could have something to do with Snake's disappearance.
You think maybe they did something to Snake?
Yeah.
Unschöne Vorstellung, dass der die Red wieder aktiviert hat, beziehungsweise repariert hat, auch Snake vielleicht entführt, sonst was gemacht hat, wir wissen es nicht. Junpei stared at Santa. There was something about him that made Junpei wary. At first he'd assumed the other man wasn't terribly clever, but Junpei was beginning to think he would need to re-evaluate that assessment. When Santa spoke again, his voice was quiet.
Look, if you trust anybody in this game, you're gonna lose. You've gotta be careful. The person you trust the most could turn out to be the one who stabs you in the back.
With that depressing suggestion, he turned and quietly walked away.
And that's that, I guess.
Unschöner Satz, vor allem wenn Akane daneben steht. Junpei and June looked at one another and smiled awkwardly. Where would they go next? Wir können jetzt auch schon aufhören, aber ich werde trotzdem alle Sachen durchgehen. Also wir haben noch First Class Cabin und Hallway with all the rooms. First Class Cabin.
Why don't we go check out the first class cabin?
All right, let's go.
They quickened their pace and headed for B deck. Outside of the first class cabin, they found Clover. She was standing in front of the wall. She was staring at a meaningless point on the wall, her eyes blank. What should Junpei do? Wir reden mal mit ihr.
Are you alright?
He did his best to sound friendly, but Clover didn't respond.
Look, I know you're really worried, but...
He could think of no words to say that didn't sound hollow and fake. Junpei hesitated. Clover was so consumed by worry and fear that Junpei feared it would crush her. Her actions didn't surprise him. She had suddenly lost her brother, who she seemed to have been very close to.
Alone.
Her voice was thin and barely audible.
Alone.
Hmm?
Alone. Hmm? I said leave me alone!
Suddenly she was screaming.
You're so annoying! Just go away and leave me alone! Just looking at you guys is pissing me off! Go away, okay? Just go somewhere else! Stop bothering me!
Junpei was taken aback. Such anger and hate. June's eyes had gone wide with surprise as well.
Why are you still here? Didn't you hear me? Huh? Fine, forget it. If you aren't gonna leave, then I'll just...
Alright, let's go, June.
Yeah.
Die erträgt den Stress wohl gar nicht. They turned and left Clover. As they did, Junpei glanced back over his shoulder to see Clover wiping tears from her face. Clover had driven home the misery of the situation, but Junpei told himself that getting depressed would get him nowhere but depressed.
We really need to find Snake, for Clover's sake.
He did his best to push away the misery and depression and forced a smile.
So, where do you think we should go next?
Fehlt nur noch hallway with all the rooms.
Hey, why don't we go back to C deck? We can take a look at that hallway with all the rooms.
Okay, let's get going then.
Together they ran down the stairs.
Oh, it's Ace.
Ahead of them, farther down the hallway, they spotted Ace.
Hey, Snake! Where are you? Answer me if you're there!
What should Junpei do? Ja, komm. Reden wir mit Ace.
Let's go.
With June in tow, Junpei jogged up to Ace. Hearing their footsteps, he turned to greet them.
Ah, hello there. Snake is... well, it's obvious, isn't it? I assume you haven't found him yet?
Yeah, doesn't seem like you're having any luck either.
I really wonder where he could have gone.
Well, wherever he's disappeared to, we must find him as quickly as we can. For Clover's sake.
Right.
June's face looked kinda enraptured.
By the way, do you think Clover and Snake are really siblings?
Why would you say that?
Why would you say that? The question seemed somehow odd to Junpei.
Why? Well, it's obvious, isn't it? They don't look alike at all.
Ace looked at him for a moment and then spoke.
Yes, you know, now that you mention it, they don't.
Now that you mention it?
Still, there are a great many siblings who do not look like one another. It certainly isn't rare.
Ja, hinter dem Satz steckt mehr als man denkt. Junpei wasn't sure why, or even if he was seeing what he thought he was, but he could have sworn that Ace's face tightened as he spoke.
At any rate, we really must find Snake as soon as possible. The clock is ticking. We really can't afford to waste any time. Very well. Let's get back to the search, shall we? You can leave this area to me.
All right. Let's go, Jumpy.
At June's urging, they left. They found themselves back at the stairs, but Junpei's mind was in turmoil.
Something about that was... I'll think on it later. Like Ace said, finding Snake is our top priority.
Junpei did his best to clear his mind.
Alright, where should we go next?
Wir hatten schon alles. Back to the large hospital room, würde ich sagen. Ja, da können wir dann finished searching, glaube ich, sagen.
Why don't we go back to the big hospital room?
Okay, let's go then.
They turned and headed back toward the large hospital room.
I don't think anyone is here. What next?
Finished searching. They looked everywhere they could think of, but Snake was nowhere to be found.
Snake hasn't been anywhere we've searched.
Lotus looked around Lotus looked around at 6. Ich bin zu müde heute. Lotus looked around at 6 frustrated faces and spoke.
And we can't keep looking for him. Wherever he is, it's not here. We need to get moving.
Junpei couldn't disagree with what she was saying. Snake seemed to have completely disappeared. There was no point to wasting any more time. The others seemed to be having similar thoughts, but they stayed silent. Finally, 7 spoke.
We don't got a choice. Lotus is right. We're not gonna find Snake. There's a problem, though. We've got to figure out who's gonna go through which door.
Yes, I have a proposal.
She walked back and forth across the room, the floor, her heels clicking against the wood. Finally, she stopped.
Why don't we decide on one person to sacrifice?
Sacrifice?
Well, perhaps that's a bit of a harsh word, but yes. You've all figured it out by now, haven't you? We can't all make it through those doors. If we split into 2 teams of 4 and 3 people respectively, then 3 people will be left behind. If we split into 2 teams of 5 and 2 people respectively, then 2 people will be left behind. But if we split into 2 groups of 3 and leave 1 person out, then only 1 person will be left behind.
Leaving behind 3 people with 2 teams of 4 and 3. Sind wir uns da sicher oder nicht? Not sure. Junpei wasn't quite sure that was true.
Wait a minute. 2 people get left behind if we split into 5 and 2. And 1 person is left behind if we split into 3, 3, and 1. I got that part. You can't go through the numbered doors with any less than 3 people. But if we split into 4 and 3, then why do 3 people have to be left behind?
Just run the numbers. Let's say we go through door 7 with 1, 4, 5, 6. Who's left over?
That would be 3, 7, 8.
What's the digital root for that?
3 plus 7 plus 8 is 18, so add 1, 8, 9.
Exactly. But door 9 isn't here, right? That means 3, 7, 8 won't be going anywhere. That was just an example, of course. There are a lot of different combinations, but the result will always be the same. It doesn't matter which 4 it is. The 3 that are left over can't go through any of the doors.
Man könnte auch sagen, dass die Quersummen sich immer zu einer festen Summe addieren, wobei man natürlich sagen würde, 9 plus 1 wäre in dem Fall schon wieder eine 1. Also es würde quasi mal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 und so weiter gehen. Das ist sehr interessant, das kann man mal mathematisch betrachten, wenn man nämlich die radikale Quersumme von Zahlen betrachtet und einfach immer weiter hochgeht. Dann kann man feststellen, ja, das entwickelt sich immer so. 1 bis 9 haben wir halt klar 1 bis 9. 10 ist wieder eine 1, 11 ist eine 2, 12 ist eine 3 und das Ganze geht so weiter. Finde ich persönlich sehr interessant, aber ich bin halt auch so ein Hobby-Mathematiker, mehr oder weniger. Ja, das ist jetzt auch ein Scherz, aber ich habe zum Beispiel lange Mathe-Nachhilfe und sowas gegeben. Ich finde deshalb sowas immer sehr interessant.
Go ahead and calculate it if you have the time. You'll see. Anyway, that's how it is. Now, if we can get back to my proposal. We only have to sacrifice one person if we split into 3, 3, and 1.
When Seven spoke, his voice was strained.
Then you're saying we gotta decide who's gonna stay behind.
Yes, we do. Given our circumstances, it's logically and morally the best solution. If the other 6 are to survive, then one person has to sacrifice themselves.
No, that's too cruel!
What's so cruel about it?
To just sacrifice someone like that?
Then what's your plan? Maybe we should sacrifice 2 people instead of just 1.
That's not what I meant! We shouldn't sacrifice anyone!
I told you, that's impossible. Wake up.
Whoa, whoa, calm down, you two.
Sander stepped between Lotus and June.
Look, what Lotus is trying to say is, you should aim to bring the greatest amount of happiness to the greatest amount of people, right?
Exactly. That's how democracy works. And for that reason, I think the only fair way to decide who will be sacrificed is through a vote. What do you think?
No! That's terrible!
Das ist echt eine schreckliche Situation, wenn man es mal betrachtet.
I'm not asking you. Shut up. What about you, Santa?
Me? Well, I agree, I guess.
All right, that's 1 vote for. Counting mine, that's 2. 7.
I can't say I agree with you, but we don't exactly have a choice. If we don't do something, we're all gonna die.
Huh, glad to see you get it. If I can get 1 more vote, then it's decided. What about you, Clover?
Clover had moved away from the group and was sitting on one of the beds. Her whole body drooped. Junpei didn't know if she'd even heard Lotus's proposal. Entschuldigung.
Hey, Clover.
Lotus walked over to Clover and gently laid a hand on her shoulder.
Your brother has to be behind one of the numbered doors. We've searched everywhere, but we didn't find him. Doesn't that mean he has to have gone through one of them somehow?
Clover slowly lifted her face.
Let's go look for him together, okay? If we sacrifice one person, then we can go look for him. You agree with me, right?
Okay.
Clover nodded once.
The motion carries.
Lotus spun around and walked toward Junpei.
Now, let's start a vote too.
That won't be necessary.
Ace had barely spoken for Lotus's entire speech, and everyone jumped a little. 6 pairs of eyes turned to look at him. He didn't seem to notice or even care.
I will stay. That should solve our problem, yes?
Ace, what are you saying? No, you can't do that! That won't solve anything!
June's voice shook, and she looked around desperately for someone to agree with her. Ace simply looked at her.
June, I'm afraid you may have misunderstood me. I said I would stay, but I never said I would sacrifice myself.
Huh?
I trust you. Each and every one of you. I believe you'll come back for me.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. There's optimistic, and then there's just nuts. Those doors only go one way. You go in, you don't come out. If we go through them...
You won't be able to return, correct?
Yeah.
True, but that will not be the case once you've escaped from the ship.
What?
Please, I beg you. Once you've escaped, come back and rescue me. Ideally, within the time limit Zero has given us.
No, that's ridiculous. There's no way we could get back in time.
Finally, Junpei could hold his tongue no longer.
We've only got 5 hours left. We don't even know where the hell we are. How on earth are we gonna find someone to come and rescue you?
Then, perhaps you would prefer to stay instead of me? Or perhaps you would be willing to leave June behind?
Ace's voice was dignified and without a hint of cruelty or malice. Junpei had no rebuttal.
You see, there's no other choice. Then I see we've come to our conclusion. Go on. Don't worry yourselves about me. Go, quickly.
Junpei stood frozen by indecision, unable to move. June bit her lip so hard that Junpei feared she would break the skin. Santa stood against the wall, calm and aloof. Seven tore his beanie from his head and turned it over anxiously in his hands. Only Clover stared at Ace, with an expression Junpei was unable to decipher. Lotus's attitude, however, was different from the others.
Let's accept his kind offer then.
She smiled, her eyes bright. Ace answered with a smile of his own.
Good. I think this is the best for me. Perhaps I'll be able to take a nap. It may be my age, but I get tired so easily these days.
As he spoke, Ace lowered himself down to the floor next to one of the beds. From somewhere deep in the ship, Junpei suddenly heard the screeching of metal on metal. It was almost as if the ship were screaming. Would it really hold until the time limit was up? Already D-Deck was flooded. In the sudden silence, the only sound was the sad metal wail of the ship. Unsurprisingly, it was Lotus who spoke first.
Well, what are you waiting for?
Entschuldigung, ab und an vibriert mein Handy hier.
We're wasting time. Why don't we hurry it up?
As if a spell had been broken, the others began to talk at once.
You're right. We should get going. That's all we can do right now.
7.
Seriously. Honestly, I was getting kind of sick of listening to you guys talk.
You too, Santa? I have to find my brother. Wait, all of you. Let's just calm down and think about this. There has to be a way to get everyone out. There has to be. Right, Jumpy? Say something.
Yeah, let's think. There's gotta be another way.
His words sounded hollow and fake.
Fine! Forget about it! I'll figure it out on my own.
She spun around and ran toward Ace. He had slumped down next to the bed when June grabbed his arm and pulled.
Ace! Come on, Ace. Please stand up. You can't give up yet. We just have to sit down together and think about this. We'll figure out a way that we can all get out of here.
Then it happened. Ace fell forward. He slumped over onto the wooden floor, his body folded in half like a boxer out cold.
Ace!
June cried out and dropped to her knees beside him. She put her arm around his neck and did... Nochmal von vorne. She put her arm around his neck and did her best to lift him up.
What happened? Ace! Say something!
She shook him frantically. His eyes fluttered open.
I'm all right.
His voice was weak and slightly slurred.
How are you all right?
This.
He held out his left arm and slowly opened his hand.
A syringe?
In it was a syringe and a small vial. The vial was empty. It had only recently been emptied. A few drops clung to the sides. There was a label taped to the side of the container. It read Soparil Beta. Soparil Beta?
Soparil Beta. What does this do? Did you use this?
Yes. It's just anesthetic. I'll be fine.
Anesthetic?
I found it earlier, while we were searching the hospital rooms. I thought it might be useful later. I didn't think I'd be using it on myself.
Why did you do this?
Didn't I tell you? I'd like to take a nap. I really am very tired.
Junpei knew that wasn't why he'd done it. Ace had injected himself with anesthetic to forestall Junpei and Jun's attempt to bring him along. If he couldn't move, there was nothing they could do. He'd injected himself so that they would be forced to leave him behind.
Ace!
Is there something you want to say? I'd just like to sleep a little. Could you keep it down?
No! Don't, Ace! Don't fall asleep!
You feel warm. So comfortable. I think I'll have a nice dream.
Ace's eyelids drooped further and further, almost as though he were dying.
Ace! Ace!
She shook his shoulder again and again, but this time he didn't respond. Only the gentle rising and falling of his chest told them he was alive. Junpei was relieved to see he was, in fact, still breathing.
Let's get him up on a bed.
He lifted Ace up the floor and laid him on the bed he'd been leaning against. When Junpei turned around, Lotus gave him a look of pity.
Well, we really don't have a choice now. We can't let his sacrifice go to waste. Right?
Like you even mean that.
You say something?
No, nothing.
It felt wrong, but he had to agree. Then suddenly Santa spoke.
Yeah, but we're not done choosing yet, are we?
Huh? What do you mean?
Well, we haven't decided who's going in what door.
Ah, yes. Yes, that's true.
Enough of this screwing around. Let's decide. You first, Lotus. Which door do you want?
I want door number 8. It's the same number as my bracelet number.
Got it. You're 8. You're next, 7. Which one do you want?
I'll take 7. I can't get along with that old lady.
What? What did you just say?
Her face distorted by rage, Lotus took a step towards 7. He threw up his hands and made a face like a child caught with his hands in the cookie jar.
Who, me? I didn't say nothing.
Oh, you're gonna get it next time.
She shot him with a glare. She shot him a glare that would have melted steel, then turned and stalked off.
All right, who's next?
Santa's gaze moved across 3 people left. Finally, they stopped on Junpei. Und hier mache ich einen Schnitt. Ja, ich finde, das ist gerade eine ganz okaye Folgenlänge. Wie ihr wisst, danach, wenn die Tür gewählt ist, gibt es ja wieder richtig schön, wie soll man sagen, Escape Room. Ja, durchaus. Dramatische Story und was nicht sonst noch alles. Auf jeden Fall, hier war jemand gerade sehr aufopferungsbereit, wie man gemerkt hat. Ja, Ace ist ein interessanter Charakter, finde ich. Aber schreibt doch mal eure Meinung zu den Charakteren bisher in die Kommentare. Also Lotus beispielsweise erscheint ja, finde ich, relativ kalt und berechnend. Santa ist zumindest... Jetzt vibriert schon wieder mein Handy, sorry. Santa ist immerhin ziemlich... Ja, wie soll man sagen? Er ist relativ auf dem Boden der Tatsachen. Aber auch ansonsten finde ich... Also ich finde alle Charaktere interessant. Seven ist bisher ein bisschen blass geblieben, aber das liegt daran, dass wir mit dem einfach nicht viel zu tun hatten im Moment. Und Clover ist natürlich gerade tierisch durch, also... Braucht man aber auch nichts anderes zu erwarten. Snake fehlt. War aber davor auch interessant. Ich meine, Blinder, der sich trotzdem ganz gut zurechtfindet, stellt sich die Frage, ist der von Geburt an blind? Ist der irgendwann erblindet? Hat das irgendwas mit der Story zu tun? Vor allem muss man sich aber auch fragen, warum sind diese Leute alle hier? Natürlich ist June noch da, oder Akane, oder wie man sie sonst nennen möchte. Da weiß man, Kindheitsfreundin von Junpei. Und gerade dieser Spruch von Santa, dass die Person, der man am meisten vertraut, dann vielleicht irgendwann in den Rücken sticht, das ist böse. Komm, ich gehe schon mal in den Speicherbildschirm. Genug davon. Also Meinungen und sowas ab in die Kommentare. Ich bin da echt gespannt drauf, was ihr bisher so denkt. Wer die Story kennt und weiß, wer jetzt wer ist und warum die Leute da sind. Sowas, was eindeutig ein Spoiler ist, das werde ich rausschmeißen und blocken. Theorien ansonsten lasse ich aber in den Kommentaren stehen, keine Sorge. Ich hoffe, dass auch einige Leute das hier sehen. Es ist natürlich ein bisschen unspektakulär, weil es ist jetzt schon wieder... Das ist doch jetzt ein Scherz. Entschuldigung. Ihr hört jetzt wahrscheinlich echt die ganze Zeit dieses Vibrieren von meinem Handy. Ich kann da nichts für, tut mir leid. Ich hätte das vorher abschalten sollen, aber ich muss halt irgendwie damit auch die Uhr darstellen. Nun gut, genug davon. Ich hoffe, ihr habt Spaß. Das ist, ja gut, konstruktive Kritik kann ich nicht drauf eingehen, nehme ich ja alles im Voraus auf. Aber ein Däumchen wäre wunderbar, wenn es euch gefallen hat, natürlich. Und dann könnt ihr auch beim nächsten Mal wieder einschalten. Morgen geht's ja weiter. Das hier müsste jetzt, glaube ich, Folge 7 sein, ich bin nicht ganz sicher. Naja, bis zum nächsten Mal. Cheerio!